Hello, everyone. My name is Pedro, and I'm sitting here with Cornelius. Cornelius, can you introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Cornelius Cremin. I'm one of the 3 designers of Uprising, Curse of the Last Emperor.
All right, so your big game, and it's in the literal sense, it's a big game. What can you tell us about it? How was the process to get it into the first campaign?
Yeah, it is a big game. It's kind of a brick. Sometimes it pops the box open. We actually had to, for the next campaign, make the box a little bit larger to fit all the stuff. Yeah, the design process for the first campaign involved a lot of hanging out and drinking of water and juice, of course, and talking about what our favorite things were from movies and literature and game mechanics. And we spent about 4 years putting all those things together and trying out different ideas. And the game of Uprising that we had on Kickstarter a year and a half ago, which is unchanged, we're going to release exactly the same game to everyone a second time on the reprint. That game was the 3rd version of the same game. At one point, we had a really long 13-chapter multiple game campaign, and you'd put stickers on your hex cards, and you could improve things, and it became overwhelming for us. Maybe because it was our first game, or maybe that was a bit too much. So we cut it way back, and then we made it like a sort of 4X punchy game, but that was like too horrible. And we realized in the middle of the second competitive version, we just like being friends with each other and we don't want to fight. And so we went back to the original idea, which was a co-op. And so we ended up with a 4X co-op, which I think weirdly does both. And I think it's a surprise to us the same way it is to other people. And sometimes we hear the same complaints like, oh, it's too hard. And we're like, well, that's because it's a 4X. And some people say like, well, I want more player interaction. We're like, well, that's because it's a 4X. And so we're trying to address all of those things with the expansion. But yeah, after 4 years of designing and playtesting, we hit the go button. And then people liked our game. We were very happy.
Nice. Was there a moment that you saw, okay, the game looks ready to go to Kickstarter?
It would depend on if you asked me or Dirk or Pavel. Dirk is our art director, and he's probably more like the Steve Jobs of board games than anyone else I've ever met. And for him, perfection is not enough. And so every step of the way, there was always like, another 2% better he could make it. I'm somewhere on the opposite side of that in terms of board game designers. I don't know who to compare myself to, but maybe a rock star that didn't get that famous would be good. And I was like, yeah, that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead. That art needs to be changed, but we can just add some fire and some skulls. And then Pavel is our ideas guy. He's constantly coming up with like 20 new things. And so if you can catch Pavel and stop him for a second, we can be done. But then if you let him go, he's got 20 more ideas. So we all had to sort of coordinate with each other and find the day when we knew it was done. And I think we just got a little tired of waiting.
Yeah, I can imagine if you were developing it for 4 years, at some point you want to check the other people's opinions. Of course, you had playtesting, but you need the large scale.
Yeah, that was one of the sort of numerical things that happened. We play tested with each other and with, our wives and our best friends. And then we opened it up to some beta testers, and that was about 100 people. And we got a lot of good advice there. But we knew as soon as we sold the game, we would have thousands of play tests in about a month or two. And that happened. And like a whole bunch of things we didn't notice popped up, and we're like, okay, we can clarify this and all that. And luckily nothing broke. Nothing's like wrong with the game. It's like, oh, okay, it works the way it was designed. And the design of the game, maybe because it has 2 factions as the bad guys, it's full of surprises for us. And so we're often asked questions like, well, what happens with this interaction between these 2 guys? And we're like, we never saw that in hundreds of playtests. We never saw it. And so that's great that we actually get to have more people playtest it. And so our next iteration, which we're running right now, has a couple of rules clarifications, but then we put more stuff into the expansion to help address some of the issues that people had.
Okay, that's pretty cool. You said there's 2 enemies, and there are 2 enemies. Did you start with 2 enemies, or did you at some point just realize, okay, we need a non-player faction here to mess with the other one?
The original intent was to do a cooperative legacy grimdark fantasy game. And this was a lot based on like our experience as, dungeon masters and role players. We really liked that, but we wanted a bit more of the war game and economics in it, stuff that's a little harder to represent on pen and paper. And Dirk's D&D world had the Immortal Emperor Azer and the Isles of Azul. And so geographically, it's based on his original conception that he was running back when I think he said he lived in Frankfurt. And he had green hair, he tells me. I would have loved to have played a game with him back then. We met a little bit later. And so, yeah, there were always the idea of like two different bad guy factions. And it really changes the way you play in a co-op game. Because generally, if there's just one bad guy, you can kind of measure yourself against, the mountain in front of you. But if there's another mountain right behind you, squishing into you, there's a lot more variability. So it was there from the beginning and we never got rid of it.
Okay. Yeah. And I think it works really well. And I especially like the part where you can pitch them against each other. I think that works really well to your advantage, and it's thematic because the chaos are going against the Empire. That's pretty cool. So in your campaign, you decided not to go with miniatures, which is always strange in a Kickstarter. For those who don't know, can you explain the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, we originally were proxying little minis that we had, we like to paint minis and stuff, and like that was quite fun. And then we got some pretty good advice early on with a friend of ours, Peter, and he said to us, hey, if you guys don't have great minis, you're going to be judged against the people that do have great minis. And we looked at each other and we're like, that might be true. And then we looked around the sort of marketplace and who was doing what. And yeah, everyone has minis, but nobody was giving out really nice standees. And we thought like, well, for a lot of our core demographic, which is, people in, maybe middle age and they remember being kids and had time to paint, like maybe they don't have time to paint. And I think for a lot of people who buy our game, it's a really nice feature. It's not a bug. It's you just unbox it and like like many games, you can just play it right away. But it's also a big war game with lots of little monsters. And so at first we wanted minis, and then we thought, whoa, maybe thanks for the advice. Maybe we should just get out of that competitive game. To be fair, it also led to other issues. Like there's technical issues with designing minis. You have to, find the right artist and pay them a lot of money, and it's very expensive. And you have to make the tooling molds. But we kind of invented this technology to make these like standees that have these nice color prints on this like color background of a certain shape. And that caused some delays and some cost overruns. And so probably it was a good idea because people can just unbox the game and play it. But like sometimes we thought to ourselves like, maybe we shouldn't invent a new technology while we're inventing a new game.
But you did.
But we did.
It worked, yes.
We delivered it.
I can use it freely. They do look awesome. It's like you said in the Kickstarter, they're probably the best attendees around. Very colorful, very charismatic.
We think so too. Thank you. Yeah, we're very proud of how they look.
All right. And what other learnings did you have during the campaign fulfillment and running?
In terms of manufacturing and fulfillment, then we're going to get into some inside baseball here. I'm not sure if anyone wants to hear about manufacturing and taxes and stuff. I guess the thing that most people do in the world is business. And so we entered into a business. And, when you're running your own business, you do everything. And so the ground shifted underneath us, shipping rates shot through the roof. The VAT rules, value-added tax, changed around in Europe and England because of Brexit. And so we had to play catch up with all of those things at the same time as doing the regular job of manufacturing and doing quality control, as well as making sure that we had like the right shipping rates and everything. And so for us, it was a bit of business school. Me and Dirk and Pavlov all had some experience in business before. Like we knew some stuff, but like, whoa, it was a flood of new information. And I think we learned that we were right to trust our instincts, and our instincts said, let's not do too much, right? We only did one language version. We only offered like 4 different SKUs, stock keeping units, right? We had a dice pack, a core box, an expansion, and a card pack. Boom, that was it. And that was smart of us. Like we're doing the same thing now. We're being measured. We're not offering 20 or 30 things. We're going real slow so that we don't mess it up, and we can deliver everything that we promise. So I'd say we learned that we were right to think that, and we still think that.
But you are expanding it a little bit, right? Because you're having a localized version, at least to German.
That's right. And localized would be maybe, I guess, if you wanted to like use the technical term, done by someone else, but we're going to do it ourselves because German is Dirk and Pavel's native language. And we got a lot of backers from Germany, and we love our German fans, and they love us. And so we were sad we couldn't do it in German the first time. It's a real heavy lift to translate everything, and then you have to go into Photoshop and put it on the card and make it fit into the same space and make sure that the rules mean the same thing, and like everything just takes time. And we have 200 cards in our core box, and then we have almost another 150 in each of the others, and so like that's just a lot of time plus the rule books, but we're going to do it for the Germans, and then maybe we'll do another one if we have the chance to do a reprint later. We don't know. It's a big lift to like get all that stuff in place.
Sure, I see. All right, and so in the new campaign, you're gonna have a second expansion, the German version. Anything else?
Oh yeah, we got some stuff. I could potentially just show you on the page if you want.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
All righty, here. I'll share my screen. Is this the thing that's gonna work? Yeah, here we go. And boop. If technology works for me, that's amazing. I'm an expert at breaking computers, so I'll try not to touch anything. Yeah, here's I'll click on that. You can see our big hero shot here, which is all the nice stuff people can get. Here's our little description, but let's scroll down. What's coming in the expansion here? Here's all our pledge levels. So we're gonna have, by the way, we had a pre-campaign, and the more community members we got, the more unlocks we gave folks. And so we unlocked 4 new items, a new hex, 2 quests, 4 events, and now we're designing a new horde with people momentarily. And so these unlocks are all going to be available in the expansion box. And then, of course, there's going to be even more unlocks during the campaign itself. So we're going to stuff the box with community design stuff. So that's like one thing that's coming in, and we don't even know what's going to be in there. When we did this on Kickstarter, it was super fun. We met a lot of really fun people. We became friends with some of the guys who were writing with us. Funny story, my mom wrote a little thing for one of our community unlocks, and people loved it. It's the #1 thing that people voted on, which thanks, Mom. So we'll have all that stuff, including something from my mom. Okay, you can see here are all the add-ons. We're having, we have on the left a German upgrade pack for our original backers. We're going to have deluxe components here. Can we scroll down? Yeah, here we can. Because we really love the feel of like wood and heavy metal. You can see that there's this beautiful first player marker. We're going to have the absolute best first player token ever produced. We're going to have metal activation tokens and wooden resource pieces and poker chips for the target markers from the legions.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're going to have nice fake leather bags here and a bunch more wooden pieces. We're going to have a couple of card packs.
You grab the last components that were kind of generic. So whatever was cardboard, you just say, all right, make this ultra nice like the rest.
Exactly.
Like. Okay, let's get plastic, let's get wood, let's
exactly.
All right, nice.
Yeah, we have these 3 really cool card packs. The Allies pack is being designed right now on Discord with our community on Discord. It's called the Rebel Nest. The Armory card pack we had last Kickstarter, and we're just printing that for anyone that wants it. It's a bunch more items. The Blessings card pack was something we gave as a gift to our backers who helped us get through our shipping crisis. We'll sell that for the same price. We're very excited. This is our next set of miniatures. We have garrisons and we have havens, and now we have 3D painted tentacle curses.
They come pre-painted already.
They come pre-painted. In fact, they're going to come with little translucent bits of ice that they break out of. So you can really style up your board.
Okay. Really cool.
So that's the add-ons. How can I find the well, maybe I have to go up to the pledge itself. I got a little ahead of myself because you wanted to know what's in the box. Let's find out what's in the box. Click and click. There we go. Okay, so here's the expansion. And we have added 2 factions and a bunch of other really cool stuff. So up here you can see the heroes and the feats that belong to the 2 new factions. On the left are the Titans of the First Age, the Father of Thunder and the Mother of Night, and they are members of the set of the old gods, the lore of the world. The Inquisition has exterminated the old gods, and now they're coming back to try and stem the tide of chaos. And these are 2 of them, and you can play one of them. And you get to play basically as a horde and walk the map eating people. You can even eat hexes currently, and they're super fun to play. And then we have on the other side the pirates, and you can see they have these ships. They don't have havens, they have blade ships, and they skate around the ice wastes and can make lightning raids from the outside of the map.
Okay.
Then you see this big collection of weird looking guys. Those are the mercenaries. These can be added to any faction. They all have their own feat cards with their own special abilities and their own special dice. And so if you thought there wasn't enough variety in the original factions, which we didn't agree with, but okay, here's some mercenaries for you guys. We a couple of good ideas from our last Kickstarter, and we just integrated them directly in here with a new Legion and a new Horde. These mercenary chips are just where the mercenaries appear. Ether, do you see these little glass tokens?
Yeah.
These give you rerolls. One of the number one things people said was like, a problem was like, if I get a bad roll, I'm out of the game. And we're like, yeah, okay. We will give you guys rerolls, and these rerolls are in the form of Ether, which are on these really cool new Druid cards. So you can see there's new art on the Druids, and we're bringing the Druids a bit more forward into the game, right? Because the Druids are the major unifying feature behind all the different rebel factions fighting the Empire. And so these Druids produce Ether as well as keep their old abilities and have neat art. There's going to be some more dice. Some people complain that maybe Uprising is a little bit too dicey, and our answer to that is more dice for you. Yeah, we've got a bronze, a silver, and a gold. The bronze has 3 blanks and 3 double sides. The silver has only 1 blank and is packed with shields. And the gold has no blanks at all.
What's the star?
The star is a wild card. You can use it as anything you want on that die. Skull, bolts, blank, or shield. You can see these things here, the Banes. These are benefits for the bad guys. For the people that wanted the game to be harder, we have this for you guys. And we know who you are. We're the same people. And you can see it comes in like a little fake leather bag or an embroidered cloth bag. And they're tokens that just give the bad guys more juice. They make the Empire a little faster, and they make chaos a little bit more chaotic. And so there's no benefit to players at all. It just makes the game a little harder, but also a little bit less predictable. Yep, here's the player boards and our beautiful, wonderful inlays, which hold everything more than perfectly. We're very proud of those. And we're going to fill this rule book with beautiful art and story that we write with our community. And all the unlocks we get from the campaign. So that's what's in that big box. Yeah, we think it's a really good deal. We would definitely buy our own game.
Sure. How big do you expect this box to be? Because you had the huge brick for the base game, then you had the small box, let's call it that way. Will this be equal to the small box, or do you expect
it will be exactly this brick shape?
All right.
So yeah, it'll be
what we call small when compared to
small
the
brick.
other
Yeah.
So a regular.
Not enough to hurt someone with. The core box is much more brick-like. Yeah. We've been asked a few times about a big box solution, and we'd love to get one together. We're just not sure we're there technically yet. Like in the whole sense of not biting off more than we can chew. We don't want to deliver a big box that's not a perfect component, right? We really like having deluxe components. We really like the feel of like, heavy duty cardboard with black core and stuff. And if we can't get the big box right, we don't want to sell it to anyone. So we're still working on that technically. And maybe we'll get there by the time we can sell our game. We're not too far. All
right. But with the big box, it also comes the understanding that you would probably be at the end of the line. So do you think this is the last expansion?
That would be the other big thing. Actually, we're trying to decide how much room to put in that big box because we're not out of ideas, and we also would not want to offer a big box that didn't have enough room for everything. So that's the second part that's holding us up. We're like, okay, we could make a guess, but ooh, do we want to be tying ourselves down? Not really. So, but. Yeah, how big a box would you take and put in your house? Like, do you want it to be the size of like a beer keg? Like, at what point is a big box too big?
That's true, because
Yeah.
your regular box is already pretty big.
It's already pretty big,
You
yeah.
go
So
bigger, you need a shelf just for it.
until we're absolutely sure, we're going to stick with our small boxes.
Very nice. So, you expect this to deliver by 2023? Your campaign starts when?
We're going to be starting on the 26th of April.
All right. And it will run for?
It's going to run for 2 weeks. Our first campaign ran for 3.5 weeks. We're not sure that there's a huge value in stretching it out too much longer than 2 weeks. So we'll see if it is the right length of time at 2 weeks now. There's a lot more Kickstarters and Gamefound things available right now anyway. We don't want to exhaust anyone and make them pay attention to us for a month. So we think 2 weeks is probably the right amount of time.
Nice. So it would take a year to arrive. Plus,
we would like to underpromise and overdeliver.
Okay,
maybe we can do it faster,
right,
but we're going to give ourselves a year.
Because we were talking about storage, and before you showed us the deluxe components, will they have their own box? Will they somehow fit in the new box or the old big box? How do you handle that?
We think these will all fit in the core box.
Okay.
You can take some things and throw them out from your core box. So these wooden resources here are going to be thicker and heavier than the cardboard ones. But there's a lot of extra space in the resource containers. So these will fit no problem. We'll have the metal activation tokens, which will replace the other ones. We think there's plenty of room for all these parts. The heavy metal first player marker might have to live with the hexes because it might weigh, quite a bit. Same thing with the chapter tracker. And the omens would fit in nicely in the existing place that people keep their omens. We have these bags, and there's enough room in the box. But it's already a big box. We've expanded the size of the box a little bit already to make sure we can keep all the stuff. It gets a little full in there. We agree.
What happens when you pack it with goodies?
Yeah. You don't want an empty box.
The bad with the good. But
yeah, exactly.
That's cool. So you have stretch goals planned? Do you have like a cap on stretch goals? Do you just, while people come, we're just gonna throw more hordes, more cards? How does it work?
We have unlocks. No, we're not too sure about how we feel about stretch goals. I think, for us, we wouldn't want to like take anything out of the game and then put it back in, right? And so if we're not doing that, then we have to find something to keep people, clicking on the page and being involved in writing with us, right? And so for us, that's an unlock, and we just have a question mark, which says, we don't know what it is. You guys tell us. And those are basically planned every second day. So we have those quite regular. It doesn't really matter how many people come in. We will still have that for our community, right? We really like the people that already backed us, and any new backers that come in can enjoy this. They don't need to get other people to come in. They can help design it with us, and they can vote on it with us. That being said, we had a couple of secret stretch goals in the last one. In our last Kickstarter that we just didn't necessarily tell people we were going to have, like, this type of cardstock. We upgraded that. We had painting done on the garrisons. We made the little tops of them gold. And we have a few ideas. If we make enough money, we're going to plow some of that back into higher quality stuff. But they're secrets, so I don't want to tell you what those are. But those are more dependent on internal goals. We're not going to try and fish for more people that way. We'll just deliver some really nice stuff that people aren't expecting.
That's great. For those who haven't tried the game and that might consider backing, you have a digital implementation, right? On Tabletopia or Tabletop Simulator? On
Tabletop Simulator, yeah. We have a very pimped out mod on TTS. And it's what is it? a physics sandbox, they call that place. And it's true. If you drop something, it falls. And so it's a little bit awkward to engage in if you're not a fan of virtual reality, but you can look at every single component we have. There's nothing in the boxes that's not there on TTS. And you can even play the game with people if you want to on TTS. On our Discord server, we have people that are playing games with each other all the time. So for people that enjoy living in the digital world, yeah, you can either examine the game or even play the game to test it out. We thought anyone who can't get access to the game physically is welcome to play it online. It's, you know, it's more fun to play face to face with your friends. So that was what it was intended to be.
I agree, but a lot of people like a sneak peek before backing.
We're happy to have them there. Yeah, you just if they go into Steam, get into TTS, they can look for the Uprising mod. And we keep it quite up to date.
Nice. Is there already the expansion there?
No, we haven't quite released that yet, but we will have that available for folks to take a look at. Yeah, we actually overburdened TTS a little bit too much, and we've had to remove some extra bells and whistles so that we stopped breaking the poor engine.
Wow. All right. So this might be getting ahead of ourselves, but after this campaign, how do you see the future of Uprising or other projects?
I guess I would look to the past to look to the future. We didn't know on our first release how much interest there would be. So when we found that there were a lot of people who were interested, who enjoyed the lore and the art and talking with us, we thought, okay, there's a future for this and we can provide an expansion, because we had some ideas and we'd heard a lot of things from other people about what they wanted. And we're still hearing a lot of the same stuff. So I think, you know, if people still want stuff for this game, we will keep producing stuff for this game. We like this game. We played a lot already, and it's no problem for us to stay in it. There's always the danger of like either power inflation or like overburdening the game with like extra mechanics. And we were really careful on this expansion to not introduce any new mechanics. The only new mechanics are Ether, which gives you a reroll, and the star on the die, which is just a wild card. So we didn't like add any sideboards or anything like that. And I think we would stick to that. We would absolutely try and keep the core game, which is, you know, what we designed and play tested the longest, unburdened by any extra rules or any weird stuff. It's also a cool world. The world of Azul has like, you know, all kinds of like idiosyncratic, strange things that don't quite fit the usual fantasy mold. And we like living there, and we have some ideas for what more projects might look like. And we've imagined there might be a cycle of games within that world. And so if there's interest, I think we'd be happy to produce that for people.
Nice. Is there already some sort of prototype?
Maybe.
Okay. Let's stay non-committal. Let's focus on the now and on this expansion. That's great. So the new factions, would you rate them as more complex? Because from what you talked about, they look very different than the 4 factions that you already have.
Let's dive into that a little bit. The pirates are probably more complex because they have mobile havens. Their blade ships can provide archery support from neighboring hexes. So the core game is a 4X, and it's sort of you know, there's not a ton of surround type tactics you need. It's basically 1-to-1 type combats, you know, a bit like Eclipse or Twilight Imperium. But then, you know, Twilight Imperium had the PDS little laser guns, and these guys have little laser guns, so they play a lot differently, and they have a strong relationship with the mercenaries, and they can get more of them and rebuild them. And so they have a very variable power, I should say, unit structure. So yeah, they're probably more complex, but for people that love racing around in boats, they're perfect. The 2 Titans are intended to be much simpler. They just have a threat level, and they're a hero, and they're a unit, and they beat their opponents up real good. And they don't have much of an economy. They just have really cool feats. That being said, they have a lot of complexity like within themselves. So even though you don't have to pay attention to anything that's not your feat deck, the interactions that their own feats give them create enough complexity for people who've enjoyed the complexity of the game to do that again, except you just have 1 figure. So I'd say they're a little bit simpler.
Nice. Very cool. I think below, if you can scroll down a little bit to the mercenaries, did I see a mercenary? Yeah, with no die. Is that a mistake or is that a weird mercenary?
He's a weird mercenary. He provides a skull in archery, and he provides a bolt once in clash. So no need for him to roll. He just gives you good stuff.
So whoever doesn't like rolling, we were talking about.
Exactly, you get that guy.
Nice. Here we can see the extra dice that we talked about before. Can you somehow get the extra fancy dice in your regular units, or are they tied to mercenaries and maybe legions and hordes?
They're primarily tied to mercenaries, but there's going to be some magic items that you can use to get those. The two titans each have access to one of those dice, so we're going to have a few points of access to that. And the bad guys don't have too many of them either. They're pretty rare dice, but when you do get them, you feel like a boss.
Nice. They look great. That's cool. What else? This weird hex. I don't know if I can call that a hex.
Is it a hex? What is it?
What is this? It's a hex for.
So the pirates come from the Nether Sea. The Nether Sea is this ethereal realm that is connecting the different sea towers in the game, and this is how the Empire had maintained its grip on the entire world for over 1,000 years. And of course, like all empires, they generate some dissatisfied customers, and a lot of these dissatisfied customers found a place to hide out in the Nether Sea, and that's that weird hex thing. That's the undernest. And we wanted to have a hex that people could play, but it doesn't go on the map. It just sits off to the side and is only connected to the sea towers. So yeah, it doesn't really go into play, but it is in play. And in fact, we play tested it recently and it got overrun by skeletons. And then the skeletons ran out of it and started attacking sea towers, and it was a total disaster. We didn't think that was going to happen, so it was a really bad idea to have it in play that one time.
Very cool.
Yeah, I can point out one thing. If you look at these Banes, you can see a lot of them have like totally new abilities here. Like, so the Imperial Engineers, which I'm circling with my mouse here, makes the legions produce more garrisons when they move around. Or the Nether Sea Ambush here gives them a lot more speed. And so for people that want more variety in their bad guys, in addition to making more hordes and legions, which we're doing, we're also going to make all the existing ones amped up quite a bit. And not just by giving them more dice, although we have guys who do that, but also by giving them cool abilities that change the way you can play.
So mechanically, when one horde or legion comes in, they get one of the chip, or is there a different mechanic?
Exactly.
All right. Yeah. Cool.
Yep.
Have you ever tried 2 ships on one? For the super hard mode, because people like it tough.
Well, one of the legions can get more than one Bane, yeah, and then the 2 Titans also interact with the Banes, and they can collect them, but they also lose them if they get destroyed. So yeah, there is some variability. We've been discussing if we made the game a little too ambitiously punishing for people. Some people don't want it to be as hard as it is, and we've been looking at ways to sort of like make it a little less crushing for new players, and we're going to have, I think, a slightly easier setup for first timers so that they don't feel totally discouraged. So to answer your question, we have not tried to put 2 Banes on a legion yet, because it would be horrible. And we would.
But if somebody tries, you cannot stop them. So
we
if
love
someone
it.
is saying this is too easy, you're not gonna go to their place.
We welcome anyone to do any house rules. We love that stuff. You know, with all the games I have behind me, I'd say about half of them have house rules or a little post-it note on the inside, and that's just how we play. So we'd love to hear about that, because you know, every gaming group has its own game.
That's cool. You said that prior to the campaign, you already had some unlocks that you designed with the community. Is there something you can spoil?
Well, the unlocks from the original Kickstarter are going to be in the core box again. I'm not sure if they show up here. Do we have that? Yeah. Let's scroll through. Just trying to find some of them. surely we have a few of them lying around here, but all the unlocks that we had from the first campaign are going to be packed into this box. We're not holding anything back. We feel like people who designed that stuff with us, you know, designed it to show it to everyone else too. And so, yeah, I don't see any of them. Maybe I'll have to find a way to put one of those on there so that we can show off that those are in there. Yeah, so the unlocks will never go away as long as we ever make Uprising. We're going to keep the unlocks in the box, and that's just part of the core game. It's not a separate thing at all.
Nice. One last question. If you grab all of the content for Uprising, how strong do you have to be? So how many kilos are we looking at?
Ooh, good question. the ultimate pledge. Let's take a look right here. I think the last time we weighed it was 22 pounds.
How is that in?
Oh, that's about 10 kilograms. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's going to be a very big box when you decide to.
Exactly. Nice. It's a big, hefty bunch of stuff. Yeah, it's hard to put everything on the table at once, of course, because currently we have 10 factions and you can only play with up to 4 right now. And a lot of these things are cards, which go into little stacks. But yeah, it helps to have a little bit of table space, that's for sure. We're always pleased to see when we go to, you know, Essen Spiel or one of those other big conventions that there's lots of people making really badass custom tables for gamers, you know, with like the drink holder and the under lights and the little dice cup, and Uprising is dying to be played on one of those nice big tables. But myself, I just have an IKEA table, which, you know, I clear the stuff off of, and I put a couple drinks tables next to it so we can have our tea and our pretzels, and it plays just fine. You just have to, you know, don't kick the table, otherwise you might knock things over. Although I'm very proud that you may have noticed on our standees, they have little spiky bits. They're shaped like stars, not like round things. This keeps them from falling over. I don't know where I saw it, but years ago I saw it in some other little minis, and I thought to myself, man, that is really cool because things don't fall over. So we actually have a kick-proof game too. The minis won't fall over very easily.
Nice. All right. I think we are reaching the end. Is there anything you would like potential backers to know?
Just that we are a small indie publisher with just the 3 of us, and you know, any money you give to us will go to feeding our kids and our cats. And you don't have to worry. We're not going to go over to the dark side and give our money to Jeff Bezos anytime soon. Yeah, this is a labor of love. Maybe we're you know, not charging what we should, or not doing the right thing business wise. We get lots of advice from lots of people, but we're just really happy to make a game that people enjoy playing. So please support us if you like 4X co-op games. That's great. Thanks a lot. Thanks for taking the time and for showing us all the cool new stuff. From my side, it's a great game. I really like the base game. I still have to get to the first expansion, but the second expansion looks great. So thanks a lot. Thanks to anyone watching. Have a nice day. Bye.